In the mid-1980s, Wall Street was booming, shoulder pads were expanding, and corporate greed had practically become a competitive sport. The music industry reflected that exact same slick, supersized energy. The charts and MTV belonged to massive pop titans carrying undeniable global appeal. And then you had Peter Gabriel. He was an intellectual, experimental prog rocker, famous for wearing strange costumes and commanding a fiercely loyal, yet relatively small cult following. By 1984, Gabriel was in serious financial trouble. He had poured his own money into launching the WOMAD World Music Festival, an ambitious project that backfired and pushed him to the absolute brink of personal bankruptcy. Facing ruin, he made a highly calculated decision. He looked at the mainstream superstars dominating the airwaves and decided he needed to infiltrate what he called the big league, simply to survive. He fully intended to conquer the radio, but he flat out refused to abandon his bizarre, avant-garde artistic sensibilities to do it. His solution was a strategic pivot into the pop format. He built a catchy, high-energy single that sounded right at home on 1980s radio, but he packed it with a satirical cargo that mocked the very materialism that made the decade tick. The resulting song was called Big Time. To build a hit, Gabriel started with the rhythm. Big Time drags forward on an aggressively funky, highly percussive bass line that sounds quite a bit different from standard 80s synthpop. That unique sound came from a highly unorthodox studio experiment. Bassist Tony Levin held down the fingerings on his fretless bass, while drummer Jerry Marotta physically struck the bass strings with wooden drumsticks. This strange collaborative technique worked so well that it directly inspired a brand new musical invention. They eventually created funk fingers, small drumstick ends that a bassist attaches to their own fingers, a tool still used in modern music production today. Over that driving beat, Gabriel layered a biting lyrical satire. He adopted the persona of a narrow-minded, self-absorbed striver, bragging about moving to the big city and acquiring a bigger house, a bigger car, and a ballooning bank account. Gabriel admitted that the intense drive for success he was mocking was actually a very real part of his own nature. The arrogant character singing the song was a surprisingly honest, self-aware confession of his own desire to hit the top. To complete the package, Gabriel needed to dominate MTV. The music video had to serve as a literal, visual manifestation of all this bloated corporate excess. He hired director Stephen R. Johnson and animator David Daniels, who utilized incredibly grueling techniques. They pioneered strata-cut animation, slicing away blocks of sculpted clay frame by frame to reveal moving patterns hidden inside, alongside intricate stop-motion claymation. The result is a kinetic, constantly mutating visual experience. The imagery on screen stretches, swells, and warps to the music, perfectly mirroring the grotesque, unstoppable consumerism the lyrics were tearing apart. This chart shows Peter Gabriel's record sales. For years, he maintains a steady line as a cult artist. Then, in 1986, the line spikes exponentially. Big Time hit number 8 on the Billboard Hot 100, helping his album So reach multi-platinum status. The supreme irony here is that the song's massive success bestowed Gabriel with the exact absurd wealth and global superstar status that he was actively making fun of. But instead of buying into the literal bigger house lifestyle of the yuppies he had parodied, Gabriel took a completely different path. He took the massive capital generated by Western Top 40 radio and used it to launch his own label, Real World Records. He turned his pop wealth into a global platform, providing state-of-the-art recording studios, worldwide distribution networks, to marginalized, non-Western musicians whose voices rarely reached the mainstream. He also funneled his wealth and newfound fame into advocacy, throwing his weight behind massive Amnesty International campaigns. He co-founded the organization Witness, equipping local activists with handheld cameras to document human rights abuses across the globe. In just a few years, Gabriel had transitioned from a financially struggling outsider to a global humanitarian, commanding massive crowds in stadiums around the world. Decades later, Big Time remains a case study in navigating a pop breakthrough. It showed that an artist could reach a mass audience while keeping their eccentricities intact, and then use that commercial leverage to build a self-sustaining ecosystem for global music and human rights.